The video game medium is fundamentally aimless. This is a quote taken directly from Ruggill and Mcallister's book, Gaming Matters. Now, as anyone who's ever played a video game before, this would appear to be the complete opposite description you or I would ever give about a game. However, this statement isn't actually about an individual game, but rather the medium itself. In this video, I'll explore what is meant by the aimlessness of the medium, how games use mechanisms to provide direction and purpose, and what this all means for the player experience. The video game medium is a particularly challenging medium to work with, precisely because of its plasticity. While this potential for creative freedom is exciting, it's also a perpetual challenge that developers must successfully navigate to create a compelling and engaging experience that overcomes the medium's inherent tedium. So then how do games generate meaning? How do they give purpose and direction if the medium is so fundamentally aimless? To answer this, we must first learn about insistent mechanisms, something that Ruggill and Mcallister refer to as insistent invocations. So, what is an insistent mechanism? Well, these are the mechanisms by which games insist upon the player and pressure them into adopting a particular perspective or role. In other words, games use various techniques to encourage the players to engage with the game world and identify with the objectives and themes set forth by the developer. Ruggill and Mcallister defined three broad categories that these mechanisms fall into. The first of these is insistent advertising. This can be seen in how games use marketing tactics to create hype and promote certain expectations about the game. These can include things like trailers, interviews, or even event showcases. Next we have insistent design. This is how games use design of the game itself to hail players into a particular role or behaviours within the game's own context. This can include things from user interfaces, level design, game mechanics, sounds, character development, and more. And lastly, we have insistent lobbying. This is how games and the game industry use social and cultural pressure to encourage players into adopting certain viewpoints or even attitudes. We can see the effects of insistent lobbying in things like this absurd idea of the identity of a gamer, or even how we consider games to be intrinsically fun, even though that's not necessarily the case. Nothing says a game has to be fun. How does the game insist upon the player? This is an important question to ask if we want to analyze the mechanisms used in the games we play. Keeping this in mind will help us understand how games influence us as players, and how we are encouraged to engage with its themes and objectives. Developers use a wide variety of mechanics to insist, impose, pressure, coerce, compel, and drive players in their games. Doom's action-packed music, cinematic killer animations, high movement speed, and how certain demons flee from you all help to insist and drive the player towards a sort of push-forward style combat. So Doom insists upon the player in this sort of aggressive manner to run towards enemies and get glory kills in order to restore health, unlike many other games. This mechanic helps to insist that you're not just some guy, but rather that you're the Doomslayer.
Management Center regrets to inform you that this
In
next
Portal,
test
we can
is
see how
impossible.
games can
May go ahead to
reintroduce
solve
an
it.
old gameplay area, but under a different circumstance, to reinforce how a situation has changed or evolved.
Fantastic. You remain.
As Portal game designer Realm Lovejoy said, after players escape, we let them solve an old chamber in a new way. This reintroduction of a familiar space, which can now be solved in an incorrect way, helps convey the sense that the players are cheating the system or forging their own path through the facility.
It was a fun test.
This event
and we're all
reinforces
impressed at how much you've
insistence
gone.
that
The
you're
test
forging
is
your
over.
own path
Come
and
back.
you're in control now.
Somebody cut the cake. I told them to wait for you, but they cut it.
In Left 4 Dead 2, the game's AI director system dynamically adjusts the difficulty and pacing of the game in response to the player's actions and situation, helping to create a sense of unpredictability and tension. This keeps the players on their toes and helps put pressure on the players to both stick together and to keep moving. Keeping in theme with Left 4 Dead 2, the developers also aim to encourage players to switch between weapons frequently by introducing a variety of new weapons. However, this goal was undermined by the frequent availability of ammo piles throughout their game, which made it less necessary for players to switch weapons to conserve ammo. They solved this issue, saying, "We experimented with removing ammo piles from most of the environments, and we immediately saw players switching weapon types more frequently." Black Mesa, a remake of the original Half-Life game by the Crowbar Collective, successfully enhances the instances where technological limitations were present in the original release. Through many military encounters, the game emphasizes the military's control over the situation, but as the game progresses, their position begins to rapidly deteriorate. This is particularly evident in the surface tension chapter, where the military struggles to organize against an enemy that can just teleport in at random. Black Mesa highlights the dire situation of the military and the overwhelming loss of control. We can see how this is insisted through the environmental storytelling. So to conclude, the aimlessness of video game medium does not mean that games lack purpose or direction. Instead, games are filled with insistent mechanisms that shape players' subjectivity. By analysing these mechanisms, we can better understand how games influence us as players, and how they shape our experience. And as developers, we can understand the range of tools we have at our disposal to create compelling and engaging experiences. As we've seen in examples like Portal, Left 4 Dead, and Black Mesa, these tools can be used to great effect to enhance the player experience and tell powerful stories. So while the video game medium may be fundamentally aimless, it's how games use insistent mechanisms that give them meaning.
Is everyone trying to kill you?
It kinda seems like it.